Hello guys, I welcome you all to this session. I am Vishali Kikan and we are discussing the VLSI technology. Today in this session we are going to start a new topic about the diffusion only. I hope you all have seen the previous videos on the diffusion. If not, it is highly recommended that you go and watch the previous videos again. So today we are going to talk about the solid, liquid and the gaseous sources. So the objective of this video are same. We are going to discuss the solid sources, liquid sources and the gaseous sources, and we are going to see in depth analysis of the various chemical reactions that are taking place and the various phenomena and the various furnaces that are different for the different type of sources. So if I am using solid source, liquid source or gaseous source, what kind of furnace or what are the changes in the furnace that we have for different type of sources that we are going to see. First of all, the impact of the oxidation of the silicon. Whenever we are doing the oxidation of the silicon, there are a lot of interstitial sites that are generated near the surface of the silicon. So as we move deep inside the silicon, the number of these interstitial sites will be decaying due to the vacancy interstitial recombination. So I can say on the surface we have more number of interstitial sites. As we go deep inside, I have lesser and lesser number of interstitial sites. Now boron and phosphorus have higher diffusivity near the surface because there are a larger number of interstitial sites and boron and phosphorus are smaller atoms. So these are thus believed to diffuse by the interstitiality process. So whenever we have large number of interstitial sites, boron and phosphorus can diffuse faster. So the oxidation of silicon is impacting on the diffusion process as well. So this thing you can understand that whenever I have oxide of silicon, the diffusion process will become faster or slower depending upon the type of dopant. If I am using arsenic diffusivity will decrease under the oxidizing condition. Why? Because we will be having excess interstitial concentration which depress the local vacancy concentration, and arsenic diffuses with the help of vacancy mechanism, or the substitutional diffusion happens only in the case of arsenic. So because vacancies are now less, interstitial sites are now more, arsenic diffusivity will be reduced. So the diffusivity may increase or decrease based upon the dopants that we have. Okay, so I can say the diffusivity and under the oxidation condition is given as D is equal to D plus delta Di, where delta D is alpha into delta Tox. Delta Tox is the depth of the oxidation layer upon dt raised to power n. So it is the diffusivity enhancement or the retardation. So it depends upon the dopant that the diffusivity will be enhancing or it will be retarding, and n lies between 0.3 to 0.6. If alpha is positive, which means oxidation has enhanced the diffusion process. If alpha is negative, which means oxidation has retarded this diffusion process. Now coming to the solid sources, boron diffuses substitutionally. If I have the nitrogen atoms will be reducing the boron diffusivity by increasing the diffusion activation energy. Okay, so nitrogen will be reacting with the boron and it will be increasing the activation energy. So I can say nitrogen is incorporated into the most gate oxide to prevent the boron to diffuse from p-type of polycrystalline gate electrode to the channel of the PMOS devices. So whenever we want to control the diffusivity of boron, I can use simply the nitrogen to increase the activation energy. If boron diffuses into the channel, the threshold voltage changes and it degrades the oxide reliability. Okay, so now I have to control everything. So if I want to increase the diffusivity of the boron, I can use the hydrogen. So hydrogen increases the boron diffusivity in the silicon dioxide. So now coming to the various types of the solid sources. Okay, so the solid sources can form the slugs between the wafer which I need to control, so which I need to clear. Okay, so whenever we have slugs formed on the surface of the wafer, I need to clear it so that the next dopant can penetrate inside. If I have various slugs present on the surface of the wafer, the diffusion process will not be happening further. Okay, so for avoiding this possibility, I need to have continuous cleaning. So with the help of solid source, I have this problem of the formation of the slugs. Then it gives me lower throughput, because the solid sources will be lesser in the chemical reaction part. Cleaning will be the issue, slugs can break, even it is safer to handle. So there is no toxic vapor at the room temperature, so whenever I am using the solid source, I will be using it very safely. I will be using the spin coating with the solvent, and it is similar to the photoresist coating. So I can use the spin coating of the solid source, and this is how I can make the pre-deposition step, and after that I can go to the drive-in step, and this dopant can go inside. So there will be cost of extra spin or bake steps that I have to manage. There will be thickness variations as well. So now coming to the various reactions that are taking place. First of all, the phosphorus pentaoxide. So in the solid source of phosphorus pentaoxide, it can react with the silicon, it can form the silicon dioxide, which can act as a cap oxidation layer, and it can form the phosphorus, which can be used as a dopant atom. Then we can use the arsenic oxide, which is also solid. So arsenic oxide can also react with the silicon, it can form silicon dioxide and arsenic, which can be used as a dopant atom. Then we can use the antimony trioxide, Sb2O3, it can react with the silicon and it can form the silicon dioxide and the antimony. Okay, then we can use the boron trioxide. The boron trioxide can be reacted with the silicon and it can form the silicon dioxide as a cap oxidation layer, and the boron to be penetrating inside the silicon surface. Now from where I am forming this boron trioxide, I am using the trimethyl borate. So this is my trimethyl borate. I am reacting it with the oxygen at the elevated temperature of 900 degrees Celsius, and from here I am forming the boron trioxide and the carbon dioxide and the water vapor. Okay, so from here I can form this boron trioxide layer, which can be deposited on surface of the wafer with the help of spin coating. Now coming to the gaseous source, these are the various reactions that are taking place. We have the phosphorus oxychloride, POCl3, which is reacting with the oxygen. It is forming the phosphorus pentachloride and this Cl2. Again, Cl2 is a pungent gas that has to be exhausted very carefully. We have to control all of the gases very carefully. Even phosphine is a very toxic gas. We have to control it and handle it very carefully. So we can use the phosphorus source gas as the phosphine as well. So PH3 can react with the oxygen. It can form the phosphorus pentoxide, and now after that you know the reactions. Okay, so the initial gases are phosphine and the phosphorus trichloride. Okay, so after that this reaction you know. Okay, so the phosphine will be reacting with the oxygen and forming P2O5. This P2O5 will be reacting with the silicon and forming the phosphorus and the silicon dioxide. Okay, so now we have other gas sources like diborane. So diborane can be reacting with the oxygen to form the B2O3 at the high temperature 300 degrees Celsius. So now this B2O3 will be reacting with the silicon and it will be forming boron and the silicon dioxide. Okay, similarly we can have the B2H6 diborane to be reacting with the carbon dioxide as well. So when it reacts with the carbon dioxide, it forms B2O3 plus H2O plus 6CO. But this carbon monoxide is highly toxic gas. Okay, it can cause lethal damages as well. So this has to be eliminated properly. This has to be handled very carefully. So this reaction is avoided due to the formation of carbon monoxide. Now we can have the boron tribromide. Boron tribromide also reacts with the oxygen to form B2O3 and the boron. So all of these are forming B2O3. I know its reaction with the silicon to form the boron and the silicon dioxide. Further we can have the arsenic oxide. So arsenic oxide can be reacting with the silicon to form the silicon dioxide and the arsenic. Arsenic oxide is itself a gaseous source. So this is the furnace that we have for the boron oxide. So whenever we have the solid oxides, solid boron oxide, if I have the excess of boron oxide, it will be forming a black kind of boron skin on the surface. It can react with the nitrogen also to form the boron nitride, and which will be slowing down its effect. So this must be looked into, and this must be incorporated in our mind whenever I am using the boron trioxide, B2O3 whenever it is used. So we have to see the possibility of formation of BN as well, and we have to control all of the parameters in such a manner so that the formation of boron skin will be minimal. So it will be reacting with the silicon to form silicon dioxide and the boron. In this, with the help of this furnace, here we are sending the nitrogen and the oxygen. So here you can see we have the quartz diffusion tube in which I have placed the dopant. So whenever we are sending the heat here, the dopant will be going over the silicon wafers and they will be deposited here. So as soon as the boron is deposited here, we are shutting off the supply from here. Okay, so this is the source board. We are shutting off the supply from here, and after that we are just sending the nitrogen and the oxygen so that the dopants will be driving inside it. So this is the hot box and the scrubber which is placed here to remove the boron skin or the excess evacuated products. Okay, so now coming to the next phenomena, that is the liquid source, or here we can say it, we are using the carrier wave passing through the bubbler. Okay, so you can see this is the bubbler over here. So you can see here we are using this actually this is the oxygen which is going here, this is the nitrogen which is going here. We have some valves which are controlling the amount of the gases that are flowing here. So we are giving the high temperature over here, and this is the liquid mixture that we have, and whenever we are giving the high temperature, it will be evaporated and it will be going here as the source. Okay, so I can say I am giving the trimethyl borate and it will be forming the B2O3 plus CO2 plus H2O. Even I can use the boron tribromide, so BBr3 also can react with O2 and it can form the B2O3 plus Br2. Okay, so all of them are occurring in this process with the help of the bubbler. Okay, I have discussed about the bubbler in the case of oxidation also. I hope you remember it. So here you can see we have the wafer, and first of all we will be having the deposition step. After that we will be shutting down the supply of the source, and then we will be just increasing the temperature. Okay, so here we will be having the scrubber and the burn box. Okay, so now coming to the next parameter, that is the gaseous impurity source. Here you can see we are using the B2H6 which is reacting with the oxygen to form the B2O3 and H2O. Okay, so now you can see we have all of the gases, and how we are supplying the gases. All of the gases are supplied here. Nitrogen, oxygen, the dopant gas are supplied with the help of the valves, and here at the output is coming here and it is depositing here. The scrubber output, the burn box output is coming here and it is depositing here. Okay, so here you can see we have the wafer. Now we are supplying the dopant and the other gases, nitrogen and oxygen, in the pre-deposition step, and after that we are shutting off the supply. We are just increasing the temperature. So I hope now you understood all of the type of furnaces in the solid, liquid and the gaseous sources. Now coming to the reactions when we have the phosphorus. So in the case of phosphorus, either we have P2O5 which will be reacting with the silicon to form SiO2 plus 4P. We can have POCl3 which is reacting with the oxygen to form the phosphorus pentoxide. We can have phosphine also. Phosphine can react with the oxygen to form the phosphorus pentoxide, which can react according to the first reaction with the silicon to form the silicon dioxide and the phosphorus, which can be used as the dopant. Now coming to the arsenic and antimony. So whenever arsenic is used, I have already told you arsenic's reaction can be reduced when I am using the oxygen. So SiO2 can reduce the arsenic dopant concentration or arsenic diffusivity. So there are solid sources of the arsenic, but there will be low surface concentration when I am using the solid sources of arsenic and antimony as well. When I am using the gaseous sources, I can use the arsine. Ion implantation is normally used for the deposition because these are bulky atoms, these are big atoms, and if I want to deposit it inside with the help of diffusion process, there will be much of hindrances that are produced because of the size, larger size of the atom. But with the help of ion implantation, we can do it very easily. We can have the liquid sources like the antimony pentachloride as well. Now coming to the issues. we can have various side diffusion which increases with the temperature or time. It limits the space between the devices. Okay, so I will be having bulky transistor or the bulky MOSFET that is produced, that is opposite to our requirement according to the Moore's law. It limits the space between the devices. The maximum dopant concentration will be near the surface, and as soon as I am moving inside, the dopant concentration will be decreasing. Majority of current will also be near the surface. Surface will be having the maximum of the defects, and there will be least control. Dislocation will be generated due to the thermal drive-in, and we will be having the surface contamination, that is deposition. Low dopant concentration and thin junction formation are difficult. Okay, so now coming to the measurement of the doping, we can use the 4-point probe method. So what is doping doing? Doping is changing the electronic property, and if I calculate the resistance using the 4-point probe, I can measure how much doping we have done successfully. Okay, so first of all I want to measure the resistance. I know it is rho upon T. I can use the 4-point probe. So this is how the 4-point probe is. So two of its probes will be calculating the voltage, and two of its probes will be calculating the current, and this is how the outer probes are calculating the current and the inner probes are calculating the voltage, and this is how I can calculate the resistance of the doped region. Okay, the current and the voltage measurement will be telling me the resistance. And when I know the resistance, I know the level of doping because it is directly related to the electronic properties. So now coming to the summary of the diffusion. So the physics of the diffusion is well understood. We have understood how the concentration plays important role in the process of diffusion. Diffusion was widely used in the doping process in the early IC manufacturing, but it was replaced by ion implantation since mid 1970s due to the various limitations that we have discussed. So these are the references. I hope you will be going through these books and you will be understanding this topic in great detail. So if you have further any doubt, you can put the doubt in the comment and you can try asking me that doubt. I will be trying to reply you as soon as possible, and if you like it, please push the like button, subscribe to the channel, and also do share it with your friends. Thank you so much.